we're surrounded by...
Hey, you're joining me, Damien Baxter from LiveLink, on the Creators Unlocked podcast. LiveLink believes that everybody has something that they can teach and something that they want to learn. No stone will be left unturned as we unlock the truth behind what it really takes to succeed as a content creator. We'll be unlocking the truths and the secrets behind how to engage and monetize from your followers online. According to a recent case study with peer-to-peer marketing, more than 85% of marketers support the power of community. Not only does it help to retain customers, increase loyalty, and give the buyer a voice, but ultimately it increases brand engagement by up to 21%, leading to a higher conversion rate and ultimately monetization. I'm joined today by Lottie Unwin from the Copy Club. So the Copy Club is a community of thousands of entrepreneurial marketers who help each other create great things. Well, what I instantly found interesting about yourself, Lottie, I'm sure you don't mind me saying, is that you're not only leading and inspiring a team of marketers. They're very talented, by the way.
Thank you very much.
But you're also monetizing from a very strong community of like-minded individuals in marketing.
Yeah.
The community consistently adds value, and you're doing this through your level of engagement, which is produced by your users ultimately. So whilst I know that everyone at the Copy Club works exceptionally hard, one thing that I'm keen to understand more about is whether your community can ever, or perhaps it already is doing, is get to the stage where it's creating consistent monetization channels. So that's something that I wanted to dive into with you today.
Sure.
Lottie, thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure. So good to be here.
Yeah. So you're popping up all over my LinkedIn at the moment.
God, I'm sorry.
Everywhere. So no, it's great. It's great. That's instantly why.
It's a lot of my face.
So, what's going on with you? I know you arrived today with a huge suitcase.
Yes.
You're off to Istanbul?
Yeah. So I run a remote business. Okay. We're like a COVID baby. We grew at a time where having an office was a joke, and therefore, one of the amazing things about Copy Club culture is that we can work from anywhere in the world. And so when I'm spending another day paying Hackney rent, I sometimes question it. So I'm off to work from Istanbul for a week.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you've got good Wi-Fi?
Yes, I've got an Airbnb with good Wi-Fi. My boyfriend works in the Middle East, and so we're meeting there.
Oh, amazing.
So not only good Wi-Fi, but 2 desks, which is our global requirement for Airbnb, and they don't have a filter good enough.
And is that one of the filters that you can do?
No, you have to just look at the pictures.
Oh, and just
we just have to spend a lot of time scrolling and going, that'll work, and then messaging them to confirm that there's 2 doors because we're both so loud.
Can you tell me whether the furniture is still there? Is that the sort of conversations that you're having with these Airbnb people?
It's just can you describe your internal doors? And they're like, sorry? What are you planning? I'm like, just loads of video calls.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds good though. Yeah. And you also have another member of staff, you were telling me, I say staff, I don't really like that word.
One of the gang, yeah.
One of the gang that are working from Bali as well.
Yeah, so over the years, our team have been everywhere, Greece, Kenya, New York. Lizzie went to Mexico for 6 months. Alice moved to Barcelona. Alice is going to Bali in January. Elle's going to Vancouver.
It's so good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just something we really encourage. But I also want to, that's one bit of the work culture, which is really great. The other bit is that we have lots of working parents for whom, they don't want to go to Bali, but they do want to take their kids swimming on a Tuesday morning, or do school runs, or be there for pickup day, or be able to cover childcare to support their partner. And so the flexible working works for different members of the team in different ways.
It's welcome to the modern world, hey? I remember the days.
Yeah, I think so.
I used to have to clock in with I used to work at a chair factory. Here's a top bit of trivia for me. When I was a kid, I worked at a chair factory and I had a card and I had to stamp in. And if I stamped in after 8 o'clock, that was it, in for a disciplinary. And I had to clock out at 5 o'clock. And, there was nothing in between. Go on my break at 10 o'clock, go on my... It's not like that anymore, is it? And it's...
I don't think so.
I've
been working remote for... this is a bit of a tangent, but I've been working remote for years. I used to live in India. And so which kind of comes back to where Copy Club all started, but I was in India freelancing, working for UK-based businesses. And I basically just not tell them that I wasn't in the UK until the last possible minute. So I do all of the chats. Yeah. And then they'd say great, come in for coffee. And I'd have to be so about that coffee, I can't until, 6 weeks time when I'm next in London. And I made it work then. And then like one of the benefits of lockdown is that we all learned how to do it. And that meant that I was able to scale it a bit more easily. But I've been working like this for a long time now.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's not the focus of our podcast, but I could definitely talk to you for ages on that topic.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the lockdown really taught a lot of us about the benefits of flexible working, hybrid working, working from home. I think it's this sort of new era of modern day working.
I hope so.
I hope so as well. I'm seeing the benefits. But you've led me on to my next question perfectly.
Ooh.
So you're supporting people in marketing at the moment. So you've been doing that for quite some time.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to cast your mind back now to 2014.
Yeah.
You started the Supper Club.
Yeah, I did.
Bringing back memories now. It was a bit of a go-to for marketers to sort of share their thoughts and ideas. Is that sort of how I read into it?
I'd say a go-to is probably the benefit of hindsight.
Yeah.
I was a really lonely startup marketeer. I'd been put in a like head of marketing role when I was way too young for the title, but I was being paid slightly more than the rest of the team. And so I had to have some sort of like status to justify it because I had some big business training and therefore that's how it made sense.
Okay.
I was really lonely and I got a load of other heads of marketing together for dinner once. It was a supper club, I guess. We talked very little about marketing and actually a lot about life and how we were doing and just kind of got to know each other. And then the next day the emails came in being like, I love that, when's the next one? I was like, next one? Right, next one, yeah, of course. Yeah, next one, that's in 6 weeks' time.
I have that planned.
And we, exactly. And,
it's in the diary, just here.
And we go again. And that grew. I'd say we didn't become, I mean, I hope now we are the go-to place. Like that is absolutely our mission. I still think there's a load of people in marketing who haven't found us yet. And like, I'm not going to stop until I don't speak to someone every day who tells me that they wish they'd found us earlier.
Oh, good on you.
But yeah, that's where we started.
It's amazing because you've already sort of answered this question for me, but you were very much focused at the Supper Club on intentionally or unintentionally on community. It sounds like you got people in, you had a great time, you enjoyed people's company, you almost built that credibility and that trust. Again, intentionally or unintentionally, they saw you were a real human being, and then they thought, actually, this is exactly what I need. It's a breath of fresh air. So there was very much this idea of community.
Yeah, well, it was very intentional.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, I think I really wanted to create a space where I felt safe. So maybe it was intentional in like how I could get them. Like maybe it was quite selfishly intentional. I don't think it was. I never had this vision for what it is now. There was no grand business plan. At the time, I was in a business where I felt really alone and really useless. And everything else I went to in the industry, I was turning up as my company first and as me second. You know, you go as like a representative of your business. Yeah. And actually, I didn't really feel an emotional connection to my business. Actually, I felt quite like disrespected and shirked by my business. And so I didn't want to go as like insert company name. I wanted to go as Lottie and turn up as Lottie and where I worked kind of be secondary to that.
You didn't have that?
No, I didn't. I just went to lots of agency events that were basically thinly guised pitch decks where you'd get given like warm white wine and asked to look at someone's creds for half an hour. And I ended up just feeling really cheated. And like no one was creating a space where I could be me as an individual who happened to have a job. And that job happened to mean that I had things in common with other people. But the point was that I could turn up as myself. And so it was really intentional to create an atmosphere where I didn't feel stressed. So it had to be informal because if it was formal, I'd be nervous.
Yeah.
It had to be without agenda because if there was an agenda, I'd feel like I had something to say or like I'd feel like I had to prep. And so I just kind of followed my nose in how do I create an environment that really allows me to relax? And as a result, that turned out to be, you know, unsurprisingly, quite similar to what it took other people to relax.
Yeah, well, I think you stumbled across something quite great there because I think a lot of people were almost feeling the exact same way that you were.
Yeah.
So actually, you were probably a bit of a saving grace for a lot of people. And I guess this idea of community that you created at Supper Club in 2014.
Yeah.
Again, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you brought that across to Copy Club and where you sort of how you would define Copy Club.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's like
the heart of the business.
That first dinner was, I guess, 8 members, 8 people involved in this concept, and now there's over 1,000 who subscribe and a lot more than that who kind of follow our journey, and it's exactly the same principles.
Yeah, so it's very much at the heart of the business community.
Yeah, that's what we are. We are a community.
Yeah. No, I think that's fantastic. And I think, it's certainly a lot of things that some of our guests that we're having on this podcast in particular, they're very much focused on this personal brand. It's humanizing and adding credibility to their brand rather than just being this huge corporate business. They're actually real people that you can rely on and you can go to for advice or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So
there's a real difference. I think you're right. And I think personal brand is really important and can really help in building community. And it's definitely like a tactic I've really lent into. But there's a real difference between having a strong personal brand and having a following and a community. And I think the word community is often misused. So the way I define a community is a self-organising group of people. So I know that there are copy club events that happen that we've had no relationship to. So our members will get together and go for drinks.
Oh, I see.
That's not, we haven't set that up. We try and shepherd it and we try and be like good custodians of the community. And our job is to support and nurture, but we serve a group of people that have a power and identity that is more than us. It's not owned by us. We don't own any sense of a group of people.
No.
And I think that's a really important distinction. And I think there's a lot of hot air around brand communities when actually what you mean is you have an Instagram following. Those to me are very different things. There are brands that have communities, but they're few and far between.
No, it's very interesting actually. So what you're ultimately saying is you're almost at that starting point of a community and you're allowing them to almost grow into whatever direction.
Yeah, we're like shepherds.
Yeah.
We're there to look after the flock and to like try and be good, kind, supportive. We're there to try and help it flourish. I'm using weird metaphors. I don't know why it's got all kind of biblical suddenly.
It's good.
But we can't control it.
Yeah.
We can just like nudge it along.
No, why would you want to?
Yeah, and like, it's 1,000 people. Obviously we can't.
No, absolutely. Well, okay, so leading on from that, so this community, at what point did you realise that you could monetize from that community? And how did you go about that? Because on the one hand, you're saying you've got these thousands of people that go off into their own direction and, you're open to that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, how do you home them back in again and create a business from that?
Well, therein is the challenge. So I'll take those questions one at a time. So when did I realise I could monetize it? Step by baby step. So first of all, I started charging for events. First of all, I realised that I was hosting a lot of dinners and a lot of breakfast and that it was actually costing me quite a lot because I was going out for dinner and breakfast a lot. So monetization strategy number one was just pay for my meal.
Break even on
like me having supper.
Yeah, got it.
Not pay for my time. There was no concept of that. It was literally just, I'm spending 50 quid a month on dinner and 60 quid on 3 breakfasts. And like, actually that was more than I could afford. And how did I make that work? So the first thing was just get people to pay a tiny bit more so it would cover me. The second thing was get people to pay a little bit in advance because that would mean they'd turn up.
Okay.
So it was more about creating a value equation where someone saw a level, like someone felt a level of commitment than it was about generating cash.
Got it, yeah.
And then, and then I was kind of had this moment where I went free. I quit my job in London, moved to Delhi on a life adventure, realised that this was like my opportunity to start a business. My partner at the time was earning enough to sustain us both. And so we'd worked it all out that I didn't really need to work. And this was the time that I had to make this like lifelong dream a reality where I'd always wanted to start a business. And so I was kind of sitting there trying to work out what this business was going to be. And meanwhile, I was organising copy club events on WhatsApp that were in London, like calling Pret, reserving the croissants, asking someone to go and pick them up.
Sorry to interrupt. Was this before Copy Club as an entity was around?
It was a registered business.
Okay.
And like I'd been using the name for a few years for these events that I'd been doing without any idea of making money. And it was a registered company, I think, because I was like, oh, well, I might as well put my freelance income into it. But it wasn't really a business as such.
So did you have this vision for the Copy Club being...
No.
You didn't?
I wouldn't say until like, I think 18 months ago I had a vision.
Oh, really?
For a long time, I was following my nose.
Okay.
and seeing where it went and building a lifestyle. I think that's the best way of thinking about it. It was, I love this thing. I think it's important for me, for my career, and for the people I'm meeting, and like people seem to want it, and therefore I should keep doing it. Then I need to go freelance because I need to earn some money and I'm on the other side of the world. And that felt really easy because I had this great network.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then one of the ways we make money is through a recruitment business, and that just kind of presented itself to me. I was getting emails every day asking me if I knew a great head of marketing for someone. And before, I used to just sit there and be like, no, I don't. Reply and be like, sorry, no.
Yeah.
Or I'd be like, yeah, that person I spoke to this morning would be great. But like literally I had the memory of a goldfish. So if I hadn't just got off the phone to the person who'd been right, I'd reply and say no. And it suddenly struck me that like I'd heard that recruitment was quite a good business model. I was like, rumour has it that that's a way of making money. And so I started to kind of play around with monetizing that.
And is that when you had that sort of light bulb moment that you're onto something?
I really wouldn't say that there was one moment where I thought that it was going to be a big thing. Recently that has crystallised in my head, but that's because a lot of very prestigious people have started saying to me, like, this is quite exciting. And I'm like, do you think so? Because sometimes I think it is, but I think I'm also just like running this kind of delightful, lovely, shambolic thing of a business. And there's probably a lot of my imposter syndrome and like a bit of short-sightedness. But, now I'm really like, right, I can see what we can do with this. Well, but there's no light bulb moment. There was no penny drop. And that's why we've never raised money. We've never had to do any big pitch process, because it's just been a real evolution. Yeah, completely bootstrapped. It's just been an evolution of like foot after foot of what do our members need?
Yeah.
And if you just continue to serve the members, then it's gone good so far, and I trust that it will continue that way.
And I think it's reciprocated on the other side as well. I think they trust you to give them the information that they need as well. You are their go-to.
Yeah, well, that's it. You don't get to that position without doing the right thing a lot.
No, agreed.
And we've been doing it for like close to a decade now, and that like karma is kind to us.
It's going really well. I mean, I, as a marketer myself, I think your brand is fantastic. It's really on point. And certainly everybody that I spoke to associated directly or indirectly with the Copy Club has been great. So whatever you're doing, it's working. Keep going. There's
a group of pretty dynamic people swimming around what we're doing. Yeah, I mean, and what an absolute joy that's my job. Just get to hang out with amazing people.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, exactly. Get to do stuff like this on a work day.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. So I've also noticed separate to the Copy Club, it's not. You're also doing a lot on LinkedIn yourself personally. You've got quite a strong following on your own personal LinkedIn page. How we've sort of touched upon this topic of personal branding. We spoke about it last week with another guest as well.
Yeah.
Are you finding that there's almost two separate monetization channels there? One that comes through Lottie's LinkedIn page and one that comes through Copy Club's channels. Are you getting a stream of monetization that's coming via you?
Hey, it's Mel at LiveLink here. We're making it possible for creators and experts to teach anything online. It is the easiest way to monetize your audience. We'll even sort out your video editing and email marketing for you, leaving you to do what you do best, creating. LiveLink.vip, where creators and experts teach.
A huge amount of Copy Club work, and I'll explain like what that might look like. But like, yes, a lot of the things that come to Copy Club that we then make money from come via my DMs. So I'd say if the question is like, so by that logic, yes, it's monetization, but I don't really ever think of it like that, because I just say that my personal brand is an acquisition channel.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's fair to say.
To me, it's like, well, we could be spending time and money on my personal brand, or we could be spending time and money on Instagram ads. They're both parts of like, to use marketing terms, they're both like top of the funnel that's converting through Copy Club. That's the same business model. Oddly, there is some monetization, which just makes me like, I can't believe it. There's some stuff now that's happening that's just my personal brand. So
personal brand being Lottie
as
Unwin.
in like can I, like me getting sponsored to talk about something, which I just find absolutely hilarious. I'm like, how?
I'm going to dig into that.
It's just fascinating. How did I become that thing?
More.
So there's like not even 5%, 1% that is genuinely monetization of me, like as a human.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird. But then most of it's just my personal brand is a tactic, is a strategy we're using to drive engagement with Copy Club brand.
And when you talk about monetization, the shock aspect of monetization through your Lottie Unwin LinkedIn brand.
Yes.
Has that just happened recently because your following's grown, or because your brand as Copy Club has grown and you have that association with them?
I don't think they're different things.
So is it because the following that you have, I think you've got about 15,000 followers on LinkedIn. So have you found that as your following grows, more people are approaching you personally for brand deals?
I'd say like, it's not like I'm getting slammed with inquiries. Before there were none, now there are a few, and I find them bonkers and really exciting.
Is that down to numbers though? The physical following?
I think it must be. I think it's one, they see me and therefore they think of it, and two, they go to my page and they're like, okay, this looks like a legit thing.
Okay, got it.
And I guess it's like, I set myself a challenge years ago to become a micro-influencer because I was so kind of fed up with working with them and not understanding it. And so I was doing a food blog called South London Eating, where I just like take loads of photos of restaurants and stuff. And my whole thing was, how long do I have to go, and how many followers do I need before I start getting free burgers?
Oh, wow.
And the answer was 3,000, and then I never had to pay for a meal.
You're joking? So you always got...
Yeah. At the time, this was 5 years ago, but I hit 3,000 followers, and that meant that I could write to any restaurant in South London and say, hey, this is who I am. Can I come in?
That's amazing.
And so I think it is a numbers game.
That's really interesting. Regardless of what those 3,000 people's personas were.
Basically, because you've got to think about your audience. Like the person you're talking to, in that case, I'm talking to like a restaurateur. It's not their job to understand the difference between high and low engagement rates.
No.
Like, how on earth are they going to have that language for it?
Well, interestingly...
My engagement rates were obviously very high because my content was great.
Well, also, on that topic, we were looking into a report from Sprout Social last week, as you do. And
just a bit of light reading, sure.
Yeah, there's a bit of light reading, bedtime reading. And they suggested that anybody with less than 10,000 followers was defined as a micro-influencer.
Yeah.
But micro-influencers were sort of really attractive to these small brands, local businesses, because they had a much higher engagement than these huge influencers.
Because it's super credible.
Yeah.
It's just like your mate recommending something.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess it comes down to that sort of like trust, credibility, humanizing, again, or everything that you just said. So very much a numbers thing. So bringing us back to Lottie Unwin and Copy Club, 15,000 followers.
Yeah.
You're now starting to get some traction through you, Lottie Unwin, rather than...
Yeah, I guess.
So, I mean, I might ask you again in another 15,000 and see what that looks like.
Yeah, I don't know where it's going to go. I mean, I feel a bit uncomfortable about it. Like, I'm super happy to give a platform for things I believe in.
Yeah.
Because why not? Like, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. Well, if it makes you feel any better, I actually think that you and Copy Club go hand in hand.
Yes.
I don't look at your profile and instantly think Lottie Unwin. I actually think Copy Club.
Exactly. And that's my point. Like, I am the top of the funnel.
Absolutely.
I'm not promoting something different.
No.
I'm never going to go and launch something else.
No.
Like, that's never my intention. It's not to use this as a platform to introduce like X, Y, and Z different things. Everything I do is through Copy Club.
Yeah.
And so they need to be the same thing. And the tone of voice, like to the frustration of my team, they're like, can we write down what Copy Club tone of voice is? And I'm like, no, it's just like how I speak. And they're like, that's not okay. Like, we have to move away from that. I'm like, okay, I see that. But like, yeah, they're very closely knit.
I've done tone of voice at LiveLink, actually.
Would you like to do our tone of voice?
No, I don't think I would.
Someone, please fix it.
So, okay, cool. So, no, that's great. So, we've touched upon that. So, you're doing quite a number of things at Copy Club.
Yeah.
So, for example, you've got this huge emphasis on community, which we've obviously spoken about, which I think is sort of your hero. I say hero product. It's very much what I think of when I think of the Copy Club.
Good.
It's how I would envisage you as a brand. But you're also doing things like the recruitment services that you mentioned before. And I noticed you also do big overhauls
around people's brands and
Yeah, we
assist
do a
people
lot
with
of
that as
consulting, yeah.
So are you finding that there's one area of the business from a monetization perspective that's performing significantly better than another?
So they all have different roles.
Okay.
So the way I think about our business is like an octopus.
Okay.
So the head of the octopus is the community. That is like the heart of what we do. That's the lifeblood. That's the bit that's like makes us who we are. We have different legs, and different legs can get longer and shorter. They can be more or less of them at any given time.
Yeah.
So we have one leg that is matchmaking, which is our version of recruitment. So
Okay.
we believe that the recruitment industry is broken and has got a bad rep for reasons that we can do differently. So we just put real focus on being lovely, listening deeply, not having a structure where we're like so back against the wall that we have to force anyone into any job, just doing it really carefully. That is a high margin business, but it is an absolute whirlwind.
Oh, really?
Because, you know, and I can say this, so it's quite funny. In April, that team, so that was a team of 4 people, made £225.
Wow.
There are other months where it's absolutely on fire. But recruitment is such high ticket that you can do 2 bits of business in a month and have a really good month, and you can do nothing for 8 weeks and have a really terrible period. So it's like
outweighed by
absolute like, and you can't forecast it.
Why is that? Why was there such a huge
Just
emphasis
a bit
on,
of bad luck.
do people not need jobs every month?
Yeah, but if, you know, if you're backing if like there are other candidates, we're dealing with humans. Like you can't like line up humans. Like someone goes, I don't want this job anymore.
No.
I want to go traveling. Cool, great. That's amazing. I'm so pleased for you. Like, and you know, so recruitment plays one role. Then we have courses and training. So we sell a number of courses that are designed to teach marketers what they need to know and nothing they don't need to know. We think there's a real gap in the market for cohort-based, community-based. So still the same idea of communities. That's pretty dependable. It's pretty low margin because it's really hard and labour intensive to deliver a really intimate,
Time consuming.
yeah, to make a course a great experience is a ton of work, but it's quite dependable because we know how many people are going to be on the course and we know how that works. Then there's our brand hackers team where we run outsourced marketing teams for startups. So we work on retainers for lots of different brands, just doing all of their marketing.
Okay.
That again, different business model. It's quite high revenue when you stack it all up, but there's a lot of people doing it. Really brilliant team, and there's no like hockey stick in that. The way you grow is you have more people working with more brands.
So that it rises like that rather than like...
Yeah, there's no like ta-da, like there's not going to come from anywhere. The only way you do it is more brilliant people. So you kind of stick all of that together, and that like Octopus as a whole gets to a business model that's sustainable and has allowed us to grow kind of slow and steady, but
So are you depending on one particular area?
no.
Or are you just relying on them all to sort of work
Yeah,
cohesively?
so that's what I think makes it work. And I get a lot of advice that we're trying to do too much.
So if you drop one of your legs, one of your octopus legs, what happens then?
Well, another
Do you have
one
to replace
grows.
it with another
Not
one?
necessarily. It depends. I mean, the only fixed cost we have is headcount. So
Amazing.
it depends on how it works. And there's definitely been times where the recruitment markets felt really shaky, but actually everyone's wanted interim support, in which case we just like pivot the way we're working slightly to support that. We really intentionally remain small and agile. We talk a lot about, like the team are going to hear this and laugh at me, but I have these 2 slides that I use.
apologise in advance.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. We have these 2 slides that I use all the time, which is like that boat that got stuck in the Suez Canal.
Okay.
And we're like, that is what we're never...
That was recently.
Yeah, I know, that was wild. We don't talk about that enough. That was the funniest, most ridiculous thing ever.
Yeah.
That like the world stopped because the boat got stuck.
Yeah.
Sometimes you think we're like 21st century and then you're like, no, that's where we really are.
Yeah.
But that, I think, is what happens to big businesses, is that your headcount gets so big that if things don't go your way, you're just like stuck and you can't move. But we're this little speedboat, so it's like completely not a problem for us.
You can just nip in and out of little gaps.
Yeah, and like we're going into a really tough recession. Like, let's see what happens. But I think hiring is going to get really sticky. I don't think there's going to be as many people recruiting. I think the job market's going to get pretty tight.
Do you feel like...
Yeah, I think so. That's probably a bit like doomsday, but I don't think it's going to be that pretty. And that means that we'll absolutely be like going back to what I said earlier. It'll all start with what do our community need right now? They're going to need different things. It's not that they're not going to need anything.
Yeah.
You know, worst case is going to be like a ton of unemployment. And so like, right, well, what are the services and support systems that people are going to need then? And we'll have to invent, you know, whatever product offering that is to give our members what they need.
So talking about your little speedboat at the moment, I can just picture this like James Bond down the canal, down the Thames.
It's so much more glamorous than it is in reality. It's like a dinghy with us like
with your Tom Fords on. Yeah. I guess the question is, do you ever find, or do you monitor aspects of the business that are trending or doing particularly well?
Yeah.
And then say, right, everybody, let's go this side of the boat. Let's shift over. We need to start.
I wouldn't
pushing
say it's
this
that
side.
dramatic, as in there hasn't to date been a moment where we've gone like right all over there. But yeah, we're absolutely monitoring things. Of course, like we have a full team meeting every week, every Tuesday, and we all talk about performance of every single area of the business.
Yeah.
And we'll absolutely be leaning into things for sure. And when there's not, like if there's not work somewhere in the business, then we're always just jumping into the community. So there's always stuff to do. Like our roadmap of things we want to deliver to make our community experience better is like longer than time. And so if anyone in the team has time, then that's where they go. They jump in to tackle some of that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you're monetizing from your community through subscriptions, aren't you?
Yes, we don't make profit from that.
Oh, really?
I mean, £20 a month is not very much money.
No, of course.
Like, and I know it's like it's a funny thing because it's like that classic thing when you're on the outside of something, you're like, what? That's so expensive. Like that we'll all feel about anything in the world, and then you work in the business and you go through the P&L and you're like, no one's coming out of this looking good. Like this is not, there's not like a secret pot of gold. We absolutely would make a profit if we had 10 times as many members, but we'd need 5 times as many community managers. Like it's not, it's not like printing cash at all. Like at all. I think community management is so much more of a skill than it's kind of celebrated as.
But I suppose subscriptions aside, there probably is a profit in the upsell to your community outside of the subscription with courses and things like that.
Yeah, well, if we didn't have... Exactly. And that's why the Octopus works. Like if we didn't have... If we took the head out of the Octopus and we were just a recruitment business and a weird sort of half agency thing, well, the world does not need another recruitment business and another half agency thing. Like there's a ton of them.
Yeah, there is.
So what gives us a guiding principle, what makes us different and what sets our value system is the fact that we're community led. And that means that those recruiters genuinely have to do the right thing because it is so damaging for us for someone to have had a bad experience.
Yeah.
For example. And the same with the way we work with brands on a retained basis. Like by being hardwired into this community ethos, it just incentivizes the right decisions. So there's so many reasons why it all has to sit together.
And then just a couple more questions from me then. So just sticking with community for 1 second.
Yeah.
How are you engaging with your community so that they keep coming back to you time and time again and ultimately you monetize from them? Are you doing it through email marketing, online, face-to-face meets, or a mixture of all?
So as a member of Copy Club, you have access to a Slack group, which is like wild. It's like an absolute zoo, but it's incredible. Like it saves my life daily. There is an archive of events. There are live events every week. We have dinners and parties. There are ad hoc meetups, and we have a newsletter that goes out to our whole database. So there's a lot of stuff going on. I probably missed something. It's like there's a lot. Like enough that the idea is that like whatever way you want to experience that, there's a way of getting stuck in.
Great.
And we monetize it through that membership model.
Fantastic. So then, final question from me, it's probably quite a good one to end on. As a business owner yourself, how do you measure success within the workplace? Obviously, we've spoken a lot about money.
As in my team's success or my success?
I'll leave it to your interpretation. You can answer it as both if you like.
Okay. My team's success is about growing the community And we do that because we want more people to have a good experience. I have no interest in 20,000 members for the sake of it. If there's 20,000 unengaged members, then like, what's the point? We're doing this because it makes people's lives better. So grow the community, have an impact in the industry. So I have a whole load of beliefs around how like professionalism is stupid and the lots of the way the workplace is set up isn't healthy. And so, you know, how do we be nice and channel niceness and like let that inspire other people, and then do that in a way that allows us to be really sustainable as a business. Okay. And I mean that from a financial perspective. So I am not interested in sleepless nights worrying about payroll. I'm sure I could grow faster if we invested more and I put myself under that pressure, but like it's a hard no from me. That sounds miserable. So I'd much rather continue building a slow and steady business that was safe, where there was absolutely no risk in the world that we were ever going to not be able to pay people, that we were ever going to not be able to give people an annual pay rise. You know, that for me, like security. And I was really burnt by COVID when we lost it was only me and my assistant at the time, Hope, who's still with us and like absolutely the lifeblood of the organisation. But I was so burnt by all of our revenue disappearing overnight that I kind of said to myself, I'm never going to get in a position where I can't really look after the team through a period like that. So that's kind of how we see it. So scale, impact, and sustainability within the team. And then for me personally, I don't know, it's a really hard one. And that's kind of why I was like, what, can I not answer that bit? Yeah. Because I think about it all the time. Like all I ever wanted was to run my own business.
Do you ever get to the end of Q1, Q2, Q3, if we want to call it that?
Yeah.
And just go, it's been good. It's been a successful one.
Yeah. We're coming to the end of a quarter where I'm like, I'm proud. I'm seriously proud. And that's kind of, there's the hard stuff and then there's just the feeling. And like, I really feel in my bones that things are going really well and exciting stuff is happening and doors are opening. Financially and within the, I guess, well-being side of it and everything else that's in between. I think way more than financially. It's just like, I feel it in the air. Like I just, we get a notification whenever someone joins the community and like, they're fucking cool people who are getting involved. And like, we had a dinner for heads of marketing and marketing directors last night, and there's just the most inspiring group of people. And I just think this, like, there's something in this. And like, sure, one of our Octopus legs might have a bad month or whatever, but like, this is cool. There's an energy here that's powerful and is contagious. And then for me, like, it's just continuing to do a job I love. Like, my life goal was to, make enough money to sustain myself, buy a house and run a business. And I like did all of that quite young. And then I was like, right, a bit of soul searching. Off to Istanbul. Yeah, so I'm just trying to have a good time and like see the good in it. That's fantastic. No, genuinely, congratulations. Thank you. That sounds really, really good. I mean, obviously you found me a job. Yes, we did, exactly. You're like our case study. Yeah, I am your case study, which is why I was really keen to get you on, because I've obviously seen that process from the other side. Yeah. And I think what you're doing is fantastic. Great. So, I'm so pleased. I'm going to end with that. Lottie, genuinely, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Yeah, it's really fun. Creators Unlocked with LiveLink. Thanks for having me. Enjoyed having you here. Thank you so much for answering all our questions. Keep doing what you're doing. We think you're great. We think Copy Club's great. So thank you again. Well, hopefully some more people will get involved after that. I'm sure they will. So great. Cheers. Thanks for having me. All right. Bye. Thank you.